Hey, it's Mr. Ng going over your Precalculus Quiz number 1, 1.1 to 1.2H, not including symmetry. Taken on August 28th, 2019. This is version A. Christina earns $7.50 an hour babysitting. And it's given by y equals 7.50x, where x is the number of hours worked and y is the total cost. Then dollars, write the equation in function notation. Function notation starts with an f. So f of x equals 7.50x. Or you could have written like g of x, h of x. Interpret the function in terms of the context. The total cost earned is a function of the number of hours babysat. Sitted? I don't know. So if you more hours babysat means more total money earned. F of 5, what does this value represent? So f of 5 equals 7.50 times 5, and then put it on the calculator, 7.50, 37.50. If she works 5 hours, then she will earn $37.50. Determine the range of this function. So if you think about it, range is kind of like what are all her possible outcomes. If she works 0 hours, she'll make $0. So her range in interval notation could be including 0, because she can make $0, and she can make an unlimited amount of money. She just can't have negative numbers. Does that make sense? Question number 2. Determine the domain of the following function. Remember, domain is going in the direction left to right. So if I look at this graph, and I move my pen from left to right, the first thing I touch is here at -4. Now, this is a closed circle, which means that it should be a bracket. So it's not going to be this one, and it's not going to be this one. So as I go towards the right, the last thing I touch here is at 3, an open circle. Open circle means do not include that value, or a parentheses. So I should have -4 to 3 parentheses, and that would be choice B. D is wrong because of the bracket. Question number 3. Which expression is undefined for x equals 3 or x equals -2? So undefined, 0 divided by a number is okay. This is 0. Big pen to highlight that. But if you take a number such as n and divide it by 0, this is undefined. So basically what we're looking for is to make the denominator equal to 0. So if I put in 3 here, I get 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. 0 times anything is 0. 4 divided by 0 is undefined. Undefined times something is still undefined. So this would be undefined. Question number 2, if you think about it, you can put any number in here and square it, such as 3 or -2, and you'll get a positive number always, Added to 3 will always be a positive number, so you'll never have undefined there. Looking over here, I look at -2. So the word or means one of these. One of these. And at -2, -2 plus 2 gives me 0. 0 times something is 0. Something divided by 0 is undefined. So this would be undefined. This one's a little bit tricky. Hopefully you would have factored that one. I would have. X. 3 and 2 are two numbers that multiply to be 6. I need that one to be negative. So -3 times 2 gives me -6. -3 plus 2 gives me a -1. So there, if I put in 3, that'll give you 0. 0 times this is 0. Something divided by 0 is undefined, so match this one. So the only option we cannot have is 2, which is your answer of F. Question number 4, multiple choice. Look at question number 2 and determine its boundedness. So I recognize that the graph doesn't go any higher than 1, and it doesn't go any higher than or lower than -2. So it's a bounded above, bounded below. This would be bounded. Bounded is our answer. And this one says bounded above, unbounded below, or none of these, and that would be none of these because it's bounded. Question number 5. Given the calculator table of partial values of the polynomial function, between what integer values of x would a local minimum likely occur? So if you just draw yourself a quick graph, you can actually give yourself a visual. So -2, 25, -1, 13, 0, 5, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 5, and then 4, 13. So this looks like a parabola here. And it looks like this value here is where the local minimum is. And that's between these two numbers, x equals 1 and x equals 2. And that'll be choice B. Now, if you think about it, a minimum means it's the lowest point on the y-axis. So you're looking actually for the smallest y value. And the smallest y value there is going to be between there. And some other things you should recognize is that this doesn't have a vertex. You could create an equation by using the second common difference and then using the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c, but we're not doing that. So this side is 6 multiple choice questions times 2, that's 12, and then name and period, that gives you 14. On your quiz, you're not going to have these graded. You can only by watching this video because we put it through the Google form. Turn to the back side. For your response, make sure to show all your work and box your answers, graph the following function, and label your extrema. So, again, some things that you should be thinking about is in this function, it is a odd degree. Easiest odd degree is to the first power, starts down, ends up. We just learned that today. It's called end behavior, but you can just put in your calculator. And then the negative, what it does is just switches them. Okay? So I know it's going to be starting up, ending down. Put that into my calculator. Zoom out for you so you can see all the buttons I'm pressing too, hopefully. See if that helps. Negative. So the negative button that I'm going to press is right down here. Negative x, whoops, go to y equals, clear that out. Negative x, that's x cubed, plus 5x squared. So here's the minus sign there. And then I'm going to press zoom 6. And then I'm going to draw a sketch. Just like I suspected, starts up, ends down. There's my graph. And then it tells us, label your extremas. Labeling means actually getting values. So down here, even though that looks like a negative 9, this is my y-intercept of negative 9. I'm not sure it actually crosses there at that exact point, but you can calculate that in your calculator. Let's zoom in a little bit. And to get that button, I'm just going to press second trace, and then I'm going to calculate the minimum. And then if I go to the left of that, and a little bit to the right, and exactly, press enter. And here, it just so happens that the local minima is at 0, negative 9. Remember, it's a local because the mountain actually goes lower. So there's an absolute minimum down there even lower. Alright, let's calculate the maximum. So I'm already to the left, so I can just press enter because it's a little bit lazy, and then push all the way up. Going to the right, I'm pressing enter, and then my exact guess. There is our local maximum. And this is the order pair 3.33, 9.52. How did I score that one? 4 points all correct. 3.75, there's an error in your graph. Small error in graph. How do you get 3.5? Didn't label vertex. Didn't label. Didn't label the vertex. So you don't have, you need both words, local, and the order pair. Order pair. 2 points. Something correct. Maybe you just have the graph, something correct. Guess I'd give you 3.5 if you just graphed it right. And then 1 point for trying. Okay, so next part says, where is it increasing? Increasing is going from left to right and then looking at the y values. So from here to there, this is the only part of my graph that is increasing. We don't have anything, so interval notation is fine. So from on the x-axis, this is 0. And I'm not going to include 0 because this is the graph, roller coaster is not going up or down. And then at this point, this is an x value of 3.33 because that's the x values. And that would be your answer. Where is it decreasing or going down? Again, if you put your person on the roller coaster going left to right, this part is going down, and then also here. So you have 2 parts. If you got 1 part correct, I'll give you 0.5. This is coming from the arrow, negative infinity, to a 0. Because you're looking at the x-axis, right? Where the x values are. And then from 3.33, that's in union, to, now pay attention, the last thing you touch is an arrow, and that's positive infinity.
Just a reminder for everyone to exit campus through classroom 8, world languages, or through the PE area. Just a reminder to exit campus through room 8, world languages, or the PE area due to construction. Thank you.
Thank you for that announcement. Now, again, what I was saying is that the last thing you touch is an arrow. And the temptation is to think negative infinity because it's pointing down. But remember, these are only x values that you're writing down. So the x value that you have, these are going towards the positive number, so that's why it's positive infinity. If you got one or the other correct, I'll give you half of a point, and then you need that one for the point. Number 7, find the domain algebraically in set builder notation. G of x equals 8 plus the square root of 9x plus 1. All you have to do in this problem is take the radicand, and you can pick numbers that are greater than or equal to 0. All of that, remember, you can't take a square root of a negative. That would be a complex solution. So 9x plus 1. Just going to subtract 1. I'm not flipping the inequality sign. I'm only flipping it when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number. And then divide by 9. You get x is greater than or equal to negative 1/9. And you give yourself a visual. Negative 1/9. Bigger numbers would include 0 over here. And then your graph is a closed circle going towards that direction. In interval notation, that would be bracket negative 1/9, comma, infinity. But it tells you to do it in set builder notation. So, all values of x such that, and then you basically put the inequality in. X is greater than or equal to negative 1/9. And that's our answer. You get 4 points for being correct. I'll give you 3.75 if you use interval notation or just the inequality. 3.5 points if you made an algebraic mistake. And then 2 points if something is correct. You should have a 3-pointer there. You'll get a 1 point for trying. And CM means common mistake. The common mistake for students with here is you're setting it not equal to 0. Remember, not equal to 0 is for rational functions or the denominator of a fraction. Okay? Question number 8. Given the following function, find f of x equals x minus 2 over x plus 4. So to find a x-intercept, you're going to make y equal to 0. So there is your y. So you have y equals 0. X minus 2 over x plus 4. And that becomes 0, the y value. And then how do you solve that? You just put it over 1. And then you're going to cross multiply here. See if I can show that to you. It's this side. And then you're going to cross multiply these two. That's this side. 0 times quantity x plus 4. And 1 times x minus 2. 0 times anything is 0. And then 1, you don't need it, so it's just x minus 2. Add 2 to both sides, and you'll get x equals 2. So the order pair there is 2, 0. For the y-intercept, you're going to have x is equal to 0. And then 0 minus 2 is negative 2. 0 plus 4 is 4. And then if you reduce that, you get negative to y to be negative 1/2. So 0, negative 1/2. How did I award points here? 4 points is fully correct. Go over there and raise me. 3.75 points if small error, and 1 is correct. 3.5 if you have one correct, and then there's a big error, and 2 points something correct, and then 1 point just for trying, but everything's wrong. Number 9. Graph the function in number 8, and make sure to include your asymptotes and table of values. So for vertical asymptotes, you're just going to set the denominator. Here's the original rational function. Rational function is just a fancy name for fractions. You're going to set that not equal to 0. Subtract 4. X cannot be negative 4. And the reason why it cannot be negative 4 is because if you put in negative 4 plus 4, that gives you 0. Something divided by 0 is undefined. Table of values. If you give yourself a visual, this was supposed to be graph paper down here. Didn't turn out so well. Apologize for that. Let's just use this number here. I don't know, something like that. I know, it's pretty bad, sorry. If I go to x equals negative 4, and what I'm going to do is draw my asymptote, my vertical asymptote. So my graph can't pass this. And it also tells you that you have 2 parts of the graph. 1, 2. And because I only have negative 4 here, I already know that all of this will become undefined, or your calculator, I'll show you, becomes an error. So I need numbers to the left of that. So the numbers to the left of negative 4 are negative 5, negative 6. And to the right are values such as like negative 3, negative 2. And then we already have our, from above, our, I guess I should put in that value right there, squeeze it in, negative 1/2. Those are our intercepts, right? Let's get those onto the graph. So 2, 0, and 0, negative 1/2, something like that. So I'm going to suspect that the graph's going to look curved this way, and then look up something like that. Now, if you made your graph like mine, kind of big, the temptation is, remember, there's 2 parts of the graph, 1 and 2, is that you'll miss something up here. That's we call the graphing failure because the proportions that you pick. So let's go ahead and put this in your calculator. Clear out your y equals. A common mistake that I've seen students do in graphing rational functions into their calculator is not using parentheses. So use parentheses. X minus 2 divided by x plus 4. Zoom 6. That's what our graph's going to look like. To finish out the table of values, you're going to press second window. Make sure it doesn't matter where your table is starting. I like to write auto and auto. Just go over and click it, and then table changes by 1. So we're going to go to the table, so second graph. And then you can just copy some numbers from there. Negative 6, 4. Negative 5, 7. What are these numbers? They're just something like, for example, negative 3. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. So negative 5 divided by 1 is negative 5. And I already have that as my answer. So it's really just calculating all the answers for you. Go ahead and get these points on there. Negative 6, 4, negative 5, 7, so it's going higher. Negative 4, we already know is undefined. Negative 3, negative 5, negative 2, negative 2, and then we already have those. Recommend using a pencil because you can shade it. I've used pen so that you guys can kind of see this. Up to the point of this video, we did not have any information about horizontal asymptotes, but it kind of looks like one right there, right? How did I word this one? Four points all correct. 3.75, small error. 3.5 points, you're missing one. Either the vertical asymptote algebraically or the table of values. And then 2 points, something correct. Or you just have correct graph only. Correct graph only. And then 1 point for just trying nothing's right. And then don't forget that last question, continuous or discontinuous. It is discontinuous because I have to pick up my pen here to come down here. What kind of discontinuity? It is infinite because you can never pass that line. So that side was worth 19 points, and then what we do is we just 14 plus 19 should give us 33. And then if we scored your name and circle in your period, again, if your name looks messy like mine is, we'll subtract a point, or maybe you didn't box them, and then we'll just subtract, and then this will be your final score. Hope that was helpful for your quiz corrections. Good luck.